Hi, welcome to Ketobiography. I'm your host, Robyn Dobbins. Our guest today is a U.S. Air Force veteran and certified nutrition specialist who has made it her mission to help people do keto without the crazy. She writes and speaks on topics like weight loss, diabetes, Alzheimer's disease, thyroid function, insulin, and metabolic health, translating science into practical, real world strategies for everyday people. She is the lead nutritionist for Adapt Your Life Academy, where she creates course content and coaches people through implementing low carb and keto diets safely and effectively. She's also the author of The Alzheimer's Antidote and The Stall Slayer, as well as co author of End Your Carb Confusion with Dr. Eric Westman. Please welcome Amy Berger to Keto Biography. Hello and welcome, Amy. I'm so glad you're here.
Hey, nice to see you, Robyn. Thanks for having me on.
Well, I'm just super excited to have you with me today because you've been on this kind of little rant, I guess we could call it, on your social media and on some of your platforms, kind of about social media and platforms, to be honest. And it really resonated with me when you started talking about it. This kind of influencer, the way the influencers are influencing and how people who are just trying to navigate life are getting confused and that made you angry. So I was like, I have got to talk to Amy because I feel the same way. So I'm just going to turn it over to you to tell us more. Like I read your Substack about it. It's just, it just really resonated. So I'm going to turn it over to you to tell us more about that.
Sure. Thank you. God, it's hard to know where to start, but the most of this came about from a Substack post that I did recently. And it was called Keto and Carnivore Have a Toxic Influencer Problem. So maybe we can link to that so people can find it. And I've been a keto-oriented nutritionist for over a decade now. And when I started, social media existed, but it was very different from how it is today. And it was, even people talking about low carb or ketogenic diets, or even back then, actually, paleo was the biggest thing, even more so than keto and carnivore and all this. But it was a lot less extreme, a lot less hyperbolic. There was a lot less fear mongering. And it's, so much of what I find myself doing now with clients, in addition to actually just helping them troubleshoot, okay, if you're not losing weight, what do we need to change? Or if your blood sugar is still high, what do we need to fine tune? But in addition to talking about those nuts and bolts of food and just lifestyle, I so often find myself sort of deprogramming all of the terror that they have. And I don't use that word lightly. I mean, it's fear, but like it is bordering on terror. I often joke, but it's kind of not a joke, that when I'm on a call with somebody, I can feel the fear radiating out of the screen at me. I mean, it's palpable. And this is, I think, at least partly because of the messages that they are getting from people that they follow on social media. And it could be highly credentialed people, MDs and PhDs, nutritionists, dietitians. It could be just from some random layperson who had a really good experience with a certain type of diet and is out there talking about it. And I always want to emphasize and acknowledge that all of these people are helping somebody. Somebody is following a strict carnivore diet, a strict keto diet, a sardine fast, whatever it may be, and they're feeling great, right? They're losing weight or really mysterious, intractable health issues they've been dealing with are starting to get better. So this is great. And I want to acknowledge that. But sometimes the quote unquote influencers just go a little too far. They are a little too hyperbolic, or not really a little, a lot, way too hyperbolic. And they speak in like black and white extremes, that this type of food is always bad. This thing is toxic. This thing is killing you. There's almost no talk about context. Because how can you say that X food, X thing is toxic when there's billions of people around the world who eat that food on a regular basis, and they're lean, they're healthy, they age gracefully with all their faculties intact. How can we possibly say that that is, going to put you in an early grave? And that being said, do some people have to avoid gluten? Yes. Do some people have to avoid vegetables for some period of time? If it's like a carnivore diet, yeah. Do some people need a strict keto diet for at least some period of time to fix whatever? Yeah. But that doesn't mean that everybody needs to eat that way. And it doesn't even mean that somebody who's having a lot of success with that right now needs to eat that way for the rest of their life. Look, and so the thing that sort of inspired that Substack post was recently there's been a lot of very influential people in the keto and carnivore world who have started to add back starchy carbohydrates or who have started to eat plant foods again. And I think this is great, like good for them. Kudos to them for recognizing, hey, this approach worked really well for me for the last 2 years, 5 years, but I'm not feeling so well anymore. And maybe I should try changing something, because I acknowledge in that post, it takes courage to do that. When your whole identity, your whole brand, the way you make a living is wrapped up in the diet that you follow, it's not easy to say, "Oh, hey everybody, I know I'm the carnivore queen, but I've been eating broccoli for the last few weeks and I feel good." And so I think that's great, but the problem that I had with it is that these people were so extreme. They were the ones saying, this food is going to kill you. This particular compound in this food is toxic. And there's not a whole lot of mea culpa, like, hey, everybody, I know that that's what I said, and I said it really strongly, but I may have been wrong. It's just, and there are people who, I had a client who honestly felt betrayed. And that may be that's her own sort of thought error, but she was following these people so closely. And when they sort of all of a sudden shifted what they were doing, it's almost like she felt like they had lied to her. Like, hey, what do you mean vegetables aren't poisonous? What do you mean spinach isn't going to give me oxalate poisoning if I eat it once in a while? Like, it just, the extremism is what has really gotten out of hand. And I think it's causing people to restrict their diets much more than they need to be doing. And if somebody enjoys that, if somebody feels good doing that, then keep doing it. But I'm just seeing more and more people who don't feel well. And even if they're doing okay physically, it's the psychological side of things where they are just living like truly in constant fear. They can't go out to a restaurant. Like they might use canola oil. The beef might not be grass finished. Or like it's I always say that keto, low carb, carnivore, whatever path you're following, the goal is to feel better. It should improve your life and enhance your life. And it's for some people, they reach a point where it's doing the opposite. It's making their life smaller. It's boxing them in. It's just taking away from them just being able to enjoy life and not be scared all the time. So that was the long explanation, but you said you welcomed a long explanation.
I do. I love the long explanation. And so when I got into this low carb space, I was following Vinny Tortorich and his no sugars, no grains approach, which I have said a million times is simple. It's simple. And that's what's so freeing about it. It's like, is this a sugar? Is this a grain? No, I can eat it. Yes, put it down. Pretty simple. And so when I see people who are falling kind of inside of this trap where they're following these big voices that are like extreme to one side or the other, and they get in this trap, it hurts my heart a lot because I'm like, no, it doesn't have to be this complicated. And also I am around a lot of people who have been in that diet roller coaster, and there's rules and there's packaged foods and you can only do it this way. And I've often said if the past 40 years has taught us everything, there's anything, it's that there's no right way to eat. We all tried to follow the food pyramid and my plate, and it's not working. And then to have these influencers out there telling us that, oh, no, no, we all have to do it this way. And people fall into that trap and it takes them down. And they're stuck right back where they were when they were on the diet roller coaster. But we're we're preaching that this is freeing, and we're preaching that this is a simple and easy way to go and to find whole health, whole body health, and yet we're still falling inside of these same traps, which is why your experience resonated with me so much. So how do you go about when you're dealing with a client who has had that experience? How do you help them change and see this? It doesn't have to be this way piece. Like, it can be more simplified than what you think.
Yeah, I normally what I do is kind of like I said earlier, I just ask them, do you know anyone? Like let's say someone has been ultra strict carnivore for a long time. So no plant foods of any kind, no vegetables, no fruit, nothing. I will ask them, do you know anyone? Is there anyone in your life who eats salad or who eats fruit and they're healthy? They're lean, they're healthy, they have no, they're psychologically, they're healthy, like everything's fine. And the answer is always yes, of course. They know many people who eat whatever food and they're fine. And so that kind of opens up the door to like, oh, well, that's interesting. How could this food possibly be poisonous when I know so many people who eat it on a regular basis and they're thriving? So and that's part of it. And I also ask, if most of them are ready to change, they're ready to shift a little bit. They're just scared. They are so scared because they've been doing things a certain way for so long. But I always point out, if that were working for you, why are we having a call? Why are you paying me to help you? If you were feeling good, you wouldn't be asking for professional guidance and like, hey, what am I doing wrong or what do I need to change? They kind of already know something's off, and they honestly, I think, are afraid to just do something different, even though they've gotten to that point where it's not working anymore. It's kind of like just a cognitive dissonance. They've been told for so long by people they really respect and trust that this is the way to do things, this is the best way, this is the only way sometimes. And they're just so scared to not believe that.
I think we've been conditioned, especially, you know, in the diet culture, we've been conditioned to listen to that expert. And I need to second guess myself when I'm doing these changes, and I need the guidance because I might do it wrong, and I don't want to do it wrong. My intention is I'm going to heal. I want to change. I want to heal. I'm finally at this point in my life where something's got to give. So let me go to the experts, and I need guidance because I can't do it on my own. And that's some sort of conditioning that we've just created within our culture. And I'm not saying that that's getting preyed upon. I think it's more of because we feel that we need to ask the expert, that we will be open to receiving everything they have to say without standing up for ourselves or realizing that you're the expert to you. And even though something they might say doesn't quite resonate or ring true, or something you really want to do or try, and you can see, like you said, you're seeing other people who are eating lettuce and they're fine, but my go-to person is telling me that that's going to kill me, so I can't do it. And that's where that fear comes in. And that, I think that's the train that you were on before you derailed yourself. I never said a question. I was just agreeing with you.
It's part of it. Yeah, I remembered what I wanted to say, but to this for a second, I tell people, yeah, the world's best expert in your body is you. I don't care how many letters somebody else has after their name. They might be able to explain some mechanism to you, some biochemical pathway, but they don't know what it feels like in your body. when you eat a certain food or when you avoid certain foods. And we cannot outsource our health. I think it makes total sense to get information. Yeah, get information from people that you respect and who you think probably know more than you do, but then apply that to your own context. And one of the things that I think, this is what I was going to say before, but it ties into all of this. I think the issue with some of it is that there's always a little kernel of truth to it, but it gets blown out of all realism, and again, it just because something is true in some context doesn't mean it's true for everybody. And like the best example I can think of is that a lot of people in the keto and carnivore communities, myself included, will say that carbohydrate is not required in the human diet. It's not, period. You can absolutely survive, you can live on fat and protein, period. However, that doesn't mean that some people won't feel better eating a little bit of carbohydrate, whether that's the non-starchy stuff like, eggplant and zucchini and mushrooms, or whether it's potatoes and rice, whether it's actual starch. And so just because we can live without it doesn't mean everybody's going to thrive without it, or that it's optimal for everybody. Just because something can happen doesn't mean it's the optimal thing to happen. And so that's, I think maybe, and look at another example is, let's say there's a lot of talk about oxalates in the carnivore community. There are some vegetables that are very high in oxalate. Some people seem to be more sensitive to them than others. But for most people, a spinach salad now and then, not going to be a problem. That creamed spinach side dish that you love at the Ruth's Chris or wherever, not a problem once in a while. If you're having a spinach smoothie with your almond milk every day in your 10 years of veganism, oh, yeah, I'm not surprised you had kidney stones, or I'm not surprised you had oxalate crystals or whatever. But so like, there's the kernel of truth to all of it, but it just gets applied in situations where I think it doesn't apply.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Some people will have, like, for example, I have, like, if I go over a carbohydrate threshold, it brings out my depression symptoms again. So some people have that. Other people don't, and it's okay. And that's where I've gotten so angry with, like, the carnivore zealots that are out there. And if you're like, I drink a cup of coffee every single day, they're like, you're not carnivore, you're not one of us. And it's like, oh my gosh, just chill out just a little bit. Like, this whole, like, low carb range that we could all fit inside of, and some people thrive on this side of that, some people thrive on this side of that, but most people are somewhere in between. And just loosen up a little bit and be okay, and let's not start pointing fingers. It's infuriating to me. I actually, speaking of getting upset, this is not just within the food that we eat, but a lot of us that go into this ketogenic style diet start to see other things inside of our lives that we want to change. So for example, like chemical laden lotions. So I was on Instagram the other day. I've been making tallow balm at home for a couple years now. I bottle it up and send it to my friends. Like, I love this tallow balm. But I was on Instagram the other day, and one of our keto influencers has this big eye-catching reel that comes up. It's like, tallow's the worst thing you could ever put on your skin, blah 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 blah. Buy my product. And that's where it's like, I'm losing it, because I really like, the whole point of this podcast is to get these stories out there that people are doing this different ways and they're seeing healing different ways, and it's all working. To have these people who are major doctors or influencers in this space to come out and say, don't do that because I need you to buy my thing, it muddies that water and it creates that confusion. And I, like you, want the crazy to go away, and it's just infuriating. Again, I'm going off on a tangent. There was no question there. I'm really bad at asking the actual question. So if you have anything you want to add to that.
Yeah, no, I think it's great to just have a conversation. Some of these people, and I won't name names, but some of these people, I honestly wonder how they sleep at night with the kind of just utter nonsense they are spouting. How do you even let that come out of your mouth and know that people are listening? And if that's one of the things that I said in that Substack was, you know, influencers are influencing. And I hate that word, by the way, but I don't think it's, I can't like, I think I am an influencer, whether I want to be or not. Like anyone who has a platform, anyone who makes videos or writes blog posts or does anything like that, if you're putting something out to be consumed, consumed by read or watched, you are influencing people. That's why you're putting it out there. You're not putting it out there for fun. I mean, you are, it's fun, but like you do it because you expect somebody's going to watch this video, someone's going to read this post, someone's going to listen to this podcast, and you want to put a message out. And so I think the phrase that I used was fiduciary responsibility. Those of us with a platform have a responsibility to not be freaking insane, to not be so zealotous, like to understand that real people are listening to this and they're going to apply it in their lives. And all it would take for these people, and that's such a pejorative term, these people, all it would take for any of these influencers, whether they're keto, carnivore, vegan, paleo, low fat, I don't care, whatever your brand is, all like I would not have been as upset as I was or still am. I wouldn't have even had to write that post if some of these influencers that were starting to add the stuff back in, if from day one they had simply said, I'm doing a carnivore diet right now, or I'm doing a strict ketogenic diet right now. I feel amazing. I'm doing it for XYZ reasons. It's working really well for me right now. Here's the other people I think it could work really well for. But if this doesn't describe you, you might not need to eat this way. What you're doing now might be fine. And they could also say, I don't know if I'll eat this way for the rest of my life. If it may be 6 months from now or 2 years from now, I don't think it's working as well anymore, then I'll change. But that's not what any of them did. They planted their flag, they staked their claim, and that was the perspective that radiated toward other people. You can only do this. That thing is terrible. This is the best. And if they had only just been like a little more measured about it, but we were talking earlier before we were recording that unfortunately the balanced message, or that's not even a good word, the measured message, the message that puts things into context is not as exciting as the thumbnail. These never eat these 6 foods again, or these 5 things are killing you. Like it just, the sane message disappears and it gets drowned out by all the other stuff.
Yeah, I think people started with this great intention. I found something that works for me and I want to share that. There's a whole range of people. That's people like me who are pretty low key, that don't have a huge following, to people who have massive followings. I think everyone's intent was, this is amazing, I want to share it. Where it gets lost is, now I'm fishing for clicks, I'm fishing for followers, I'm fishing for, like, suddenly that kind of, and it grabs hold of your head. I think every single person who is listening has at some point put some sort of post out on social media and it hit real well. And it gives you that dopamine hit. So if you're thriving on that, that's your business model. It's hard to back out of it once you've started doing it. And I do want to say there's plenty of people out there who are just kind of not doing that. Like I don't want to call myself an influencer. I hear that kind of from you as well. Like you are out putting out a message. There's content that does create an influence, but it's different than this influencer. Like you're putting out information because you want to put out information, and it's not being overridden by because I have to get followers, because I have to keep growing this. And so that, I feel like that's just something to look out for. Do you have like maybe like a list, or have you thought about things that people should look out for before they start like jumping all in on following one person instead of expanding?
That's a really good question. And I don't think I have a list like that yet, but I should probably put one together. I mean, I've always told people, if somebody's telling you to do something or telling you not to do something, they should be able to explain why. What is the mechanism? What are you concerned about? If I were to do this or to not do this, how does that work in my body? You want to know that there's actual science behind, or at least something plausible, a plausible mechanism. So I feel like I do like for people to follow people with some kind of credential, but at the same time, credentials are kind of meaningless. There's plenty of very highly credentialed people out there who I think are not worth following, or look at all the lay people like yourself, like so many of the most well-known and most beloved people in our community who are just someone who tried a certain way of eating and they lost 100 pounds, or their major depression went away, their ulcerative colitis went away. Like, I think those people are worth listening to, especially if they are someone who has, cured or put into remission something that you're dealing with. My co-author, Dr. Eric Westman, often tells people, or when they're saying, hey, what should I do this, or what should I do? He's always asking, like, well, where did you hear that from? Where are you getting information from? Because you, the 55-year-old menopausal woman who has low thyroid and is looking to lose 78 pounds, she probably cannot do well on the same approach that the 23-year-old male bodybuilder is using. And they both might be called keto, quote, quote, or whatever, but you kind of want to seek someone out who is similar to you in a similar situation. That doesn't mean that you can't learn from everybody else, like listen, but what makes sense for your situation? Is what somebody else is doing, does it even make sense? Does it apply for you? Because look at the 3-to-1 or 4-to-1 ketogenic diet for epilepsy. That's like a 90% fat diet. And yes, it will prevent seizures for some of those people. That doesn't mean that everybody doing keto needs to do that super duper high fat. It works for some people. It's not required for everybody. And I guess something else that I tell people, and like, who should I listen to? Who can I trust? If all they do is fear monger, if they traffic in what I call fear porn, if everything out of their mouth is alarmist and scary and warning you about something dangerous, is that something that you even want to invite into your life? Is that what you want in your head most days? More fear, more scared, more restriction. Like, if yes, okay, great, keep listening to those people. But who wants that? I think everybody probably should do a social media audit every few months. Do I still want to follow these people? Are they doing nothing but scare me? Am I getting something valuable from them? Or if I unsubscribed, if I unfollowed, would I even miss them?
That's an excellent point. I really like that because that's what happens. You get upset and then you're living in this, I'm upset because I saw this thing, or I'm upset because I want to do this thing and they're telling me I can't. It's scary. Like, just cut that from your life. It's unnecessary. You can live a happy, peaceful life and nobody would know if you just clicked the unsubscribe button and moved on.
Right. Or sometimes I always tell people, you don't even have to unsubscribe. You don't have to unfollow. Just ignore. Just scroll by. Just
Mhm.
because something pops up doesn't mean you have to click on it. You don't have to watch every video. You don't have to listen to every podcast.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think I started this lifestyle nearly 9 years ago and it wasn't like that then. So for me to just be like, that's going to be somebody to follow, that's going to be all about clickbait. I don't need that in my life. But right now, it is so hard to say, I have seen this and I've seen that people are making it work. I want to try it. So you've got all these keto products on the shelves that are out there to confuse you. We all agree that most of those aren't great for you. Some are, you have to sift through it. And then we have all these people who are telling you how to do things. It's just as bad. It's just as bad. Or if we look at it, we we can look at it from this pharmaceutical perspective. We want to we get upset because they put pharmaceuticals out, but the trials were only a month long or 6 months long. So we only know how long it works for 6 months, but we're going to put it out there as the thing that's going to change everything. How is that any different than us saying carnivore beef, salt, water only is the only way to go? If you add anything else, it's going to kill you. How is that any how is that any different than that?
Yeah,
And I
it
don't think enough people are asking that question.
yeah, it definitely reeks of religious evangelism. And, if you don't want somebody knocking on your door proselytizing to you, then you should probably be careful about what you say about what you eat. Now, but that being said, like, I feel like I've been a little too sort of negative and ranty about the keto and carnivore people. Like, I'm a keto person. I've literally built my career out of the ketogenic diet. So I want to acknowledge that this can absolutely change your life. Keto, carnivore, whatever. It can, and that's not an exaggeration. It can change your life. And there are, I think it's easy to become an evangelist when you've had this incredible transformation. Like, if you've been debilitated with mental health issues for decades, or you couldn't leave the house because of the Crohn's disease, and now you're a whole different person. Of course, you want to shout it from the rooftops, but you can still do that by saying, this is my experience. Yours might be different. Not everyone needs to eat this way, but I just want to share this in case someone out there needs to hear this, in case this is going to resonate with somebody. But it just it's like anything. These diets can be so helpful and so therapeutic, and then you take them too far and there's a problem. It's just like water, right? Too much. Like, do we need to drink water? Yes. Too much water will kill you. Do we need oxygen? Now, that really will kill you, right? That's not fear mongering, but like,
Mhm.
we need oxygen. Too much oxygen can kill you. There's a sweet spot, no pun intended, haha, but there's like a sweet spot for everything. And it's unfortunate that things go too far. And I wonder how much that has to do with the social media algorithms, that you sort of have to be extreme to get any attention. Now, you have to constantly one up yourself, or you, like I said, you're going to get lost. You're just going to fall down the algorithm. Nobody's going to see you. Nobody's going to find you.
Yeah, I'm perfectly okay getting lost in that because I don't have the energy to try to outdo myself every single day.
Yeah.
I have a real strict authenticity rule, and every time I've ever tried to like jump over that and be like, I'm going to put something out there because I want people to see it and it's going to be this great thing, it doesn't work out, and it's okay. Just move on. It doesn't, life has to, we get so wrapped up in what the social media algorithm's going to do with your information, and it really doesn't have to be that way. Free
Yeah.
yourself from that. Uh, well, any final thoughts? Because I do want to change topic, but any final thoughts about that? You've been in, your whole brand is this keto without the crazy, and that did make you crazy when that happened, when you had your client come to you afraid. So how can you tie it into what you do on a daily basis with the people that you work with?
I try to, and again, really depends on the situation. That's why I have private consultations with people, so we can really dig into the details of what's going on for them. But I love helping people get back to the basics. Forget about all the things you think you're supposed to do, all the extra things that you think you have to do to be successful that you don't really have to do. And I often say that when I was brand new to this, not even professionally, when I found low carb for myself, I started with the Atkins diet, which frankly is still amazing, still extremely effective, probably could help like 85% of the people out there. Like, read the Atkins book and you're good to go. Forget everything else. But it was so much easier and simpler to do a low carb diet back then. And I think it's because there wasn't all of this confusion and so many different things being said and being argued. And I like to help people return to that kind of like, let's put the earplugs on. Let's like forget that we've heard any of this other stuff. And it's hard to do because it's in your brain. But I wish that people could come into this or have it be the way it was when I got into it, but like we can't put the monster back in the box.
No, no, we can't. And you said earlier that, there's a sweet spot, and I want to reemphasize that sweet spot is different for everyone. It's very individualized. Again, that kind of goes back to my thought that we've been conditioned to kind of ask the expert because we don't want to do it wrong and all of that stuff. But it's really the message, instead of being do it this way, the message needs to be listen to yourself. What works for you doesn't work for everyone else, that kind of stuff. But that just gets lost. That doesn't put that title page out there that says don't eat these 5 things and makes me want to read it or whatever. So I like the back to basics approach, and I do agree with you. I would love to be able to put the monster back in the box, because it has just gotten too, it's like the Wild West out there right now. Like if you're a new person to this lifestyle, you've got the people who never wanted you to go this way in the first place that are saying, no, go back to taking the medicines, have the surgery, do this diet, eat less, move more, all of that stuff. And then you have all these people that are like, no, we welcome you to our community, but you can only do it like this. And it's like, no, it doesn't need to be that way. It's so infuriating. So I'm going to move on though, because I think you and I can keep going for quite some time on this. And I just wanted to put out there, to everyone, hear this. It's individualized. It doesn't have to be complicated. There's something that works for you within this range of eating, and to block out the noise. That's kind of where I want to end that conversation. Do you agree before I move on?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Ready to switch topics.
Okay. So I don't know, you probably wouldn't remember this, but back in low carb Denver, the very last low carb Denver, you gave a presentation about thyroid health, which sparked my interest because I have Hashimoto's, and very nervous me approached you and was like, I'd like to talk to you about this more, but I was very scared. So I don't know that we ever had the conversation since we're here, and I feel my confidence has gotten so much better since then. I would like to ask you more about thyroid health. So this is a big shift of topic, but I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's at the time. This was 2020. I didn't really, I still can't like pinpoint what these feelings are that I had that made me realize something was going on. I have a family history. Both of my parents had their thyroids removed. So I had a family history there. So it just made me kind of start being keen and alert to the fact that perhaps I had an issue as well. The only real symptom that I remember having is that when my heart would bound occasionally, or get like, it would feel faster than it was actually. So I always think this is a good conversation to have, because whenever I've ever read, and I have all these books behind me about thyroid health, whenever I've tried to read about thyroid, it will say, tell your doctor about your symptoms. So my one big question is, what are those symptoms? What are we looking for? And then to go further, that I've read all these books, and it kind of ties back to this conversation that we already have, is each person kind of tells you to do it a different way. What's a good way? What's maybe the average way that would work for people? The not crazy way that may work for most people, or things that you recommend for people who are dealing with thyroid issues.
It's hard to answer that, because I'm going to say something that is probably unpopular in the keto and carnivore worlds, where we think that, oh, if you just if you just eat the right diet, do this certain thing, that everything's always automatically going to fix itself. And very often it does, but it doesn't always. And I really think that some people need thyroid medicine. There probably are ways to quote unquote correct the hormones or fix the hormones naturally, but we have not found what that is for everybody, right? Because some people can be doing carnivore perfectly, they could be doing keto perfectly, they could be doing whatever else, getting sleep, doing all the right things, and it's not working, and they just need a little something from the outside, like thyroid hormone. And so, there's so many different things said. And, like a lot of people think, oh, well, I'm going to try iodine. I'll put some Lugol's in my coffee or something. Okay, great. Some people will feel better doing that. I think that's very rare. I haven't heard of many magical healing stories from iodine. And I really don't think, I'm not saying people shouldn't use iodine, but I don't think that most hypothyroidism in the industrialized world is iodine deficiency. And if it's not iodine deficiency, then adding more iodine might not help. And same thing with like selenium deficiency, all these other nutrients that we need for proper thyroid hormone synthesis. I think, there's a lot of talk about anyone with hypothyroidism should be gluten-free, or particularly Hashimoto's. If you have the autoimmune, you should be gluten-free. Again, I haven't heard too many miraculous transformations of people just going gluten-free and the Hashis goes away. If somebody's out there listening or watching this and yours did great, I'm happy for you, but that doesn't always work for everybody. But I think the bigger issue, and I don't know if you want to talk about that, is that I think so many people are undiagnosed when they definitely have low thyroid, or they're on thyroid medicine. They know they have it, they've been diagnosed, but they're on, in my opinion, the wrong kind of medicine. And so they still feel like garbage. They don't feel any different.
Yeah, I will address what you said, because I don't think it's controversial at all. And it's another topic thread that I've been going down when I talk to people, is this kind of thought that we have in our mind that if you go keto, everything's going to be okay. You don't have to worry about anything else. Like, I know I just recently interviewed someone who had to have bypass surgery. They've been keto for a year. It didn't change the damage that was done prior to it. So, still go to the doctor. But people will be like, oh, I'm keto, so I don't have to worry about that anymore. And it's like, oh, no, you still have to get yourself checked out. Personally, like my father, he was diagnosed with cancer last year, but he's been eating a low sugar diet for several years. It doesn't stop everything, and we need to be aware of that. And I am that person. I am that person who was watching the videos and saying, okay, let me put iodine, like that'll solve everything. It solved all these other people's problems. Let me put iodine in my coffee and that's going to solve everything. Guess what? Didn't work. And so I was like, I thought I did something wrong. So this goes again back to that other conversation. I thought I did something wrong because I was doing what they told me to do. I was putting the iodine in my coffee and I was still feeling miserable and still having these problems and couldn't explain it. And why wasn't that working for me until I started, okay, I need to really have these conversations with my physicians. I need to read the books. I need to gather this information, and realized, yes, I need to support my thyroid with the thyroid medication. I can't just assume that keto or going gluten-free is going to heal that, or adding iodine or adding selenium is going to heal that. And you kind of have to take that step back and realize, okay, modern medicine does exist for a reason, and this is the reason. So now I think it's a good way to talk about what you think that should look like in most cases for people, or how you try to guide people through that.
Through what? Through getting a proper
Through,
diagnosis or
yeah, it's
navigating
not
the treatment?
the treatment, because what you had said was you think that people are treating it. The people who are treating it may not be treating it in the most optimal way. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, this is I am extremely passionate about this. um I think so let's undiagnosed is a whole separate thing, but people that actually are diagnosed, the most common medication prescribed for low thyroid is levothyroxine, or most people know it as the brand name Synthroid. There's some other brands too, but it's all levothyroxine. And that's what doctors learn in medical school. that if someone has low thyroid, you give levothyroxine, end of story. And you give the dose of levothyroxine that will normalize the TSH, the thyroid stimulating hormone. And so if you ever ask your doctor to check your thyroid or do a thyroid test, they will almost always order the TSH and nothing else. And the problem with this is that there are millions of people who have a normal TSH, but the actual thyroid hormone is low. TSH is not a thyroid hormone, it's a pituitary gland hormone. And so if you're taking thyroid medicine and that dose of levo has normalized your TSH, great. The number looks good on the lab printout. Why do you still feel like yesterday's hot garbage? Why are you still fatigued? Why are you still gaining weight or you can't lose weight, even though you're doing all the right things with your food? Why do you have depression? Why are you constipated? Why is your hair falling out? Like all of these things. And I get a lot of people coming to me in this situation who are either, I think I can't diagnose, but indications are there that they have low thyroid, or again, they already know they have it, they're on the medicine, but I can see on my forms they've checked off, 8, 10 symptoms. And so the easy part is to do that, to walk someone through like, hey, this obviously isn't working for you. You're on thyroid medicine, but you still feel terrible. The hardest part is finding a practitioner who will prescribe them a different kind of thyroid medicine. There's a lot of fear about the other types of thyroid medicine. I'm actually writing a book about this. It's going to be a long time until it's out, but there are reasons why doctors or nurse practitioners, PAs, are hesitant to prescribe. And it's really no different from keto or carnivore, where they didn't learn that in medical school. In fact, it kind of goes dead against what they were taught in medical school. How could you possibly be healthy without vegetables? How could you possibly be healthy without whole grains and bran and fiber? And they are really taught one paradigm when it comes to thyroid. You measure the TSH and you treat with levothyroxine. Except, what if that doesn't work? How many doctors came to the keto and carnivore world after decades in practice and thinking, how come my patients never get any better? I'm not a shitty doctor. Like, I'm a good doctor. I know my stuff. How come they're not either they're not following my advice, or maybe my advice has actually been crappy for the last 20 years. We hear a lot of the doctors say that they had to be self-taught about this. And so I sort of can't blame any of them for not wanting to look at thyroid this other way. But in my thinking, how can you have a patient sitting across from you saying, I have this and this and this and these symptoms? Can you help me? I don't think this medicine is working for me. I still have all these signs and symptoms of low thyroid. How can you just dismiss that? How can you just say, well, I don't know what's wrong. Just eat less and move more, honey. See ya. It's unconscionable.
Absolutely. I think it must be really hard to be a physician this day and age where, you go through school, you think you're gonna heal people. You're excited, and you do all of this work so you can go out and heal people, and then continuously see people not healing. And it's not in your head that it's something that you're saying because you were taught this from the experts. So you're just kind of, you've educated yourself, you know what you're talking about, and you keep talking. So it can't possibly be what I'm doing. The patient's doing it wrong. And I am not sure if I could be a physician and do that all day, every day, without just questioning my choices in life. But yet that is how it continues, and it's people like you who are seeing this because you work alongside. You're not you're not a physician, you're not a doctor, you're not giving medical advice, but you see it every day, and it does turn on those light bulbs for you. It does make you ask those questions and dig deeper, whereas that's not happening in as much in the medical field.
And
Again, it's just infuriating. Go ahead.
There are exceptions, of course. Like we all know doctors and
Absolutely.
nurses who are amazing. I mean, but
Hmm.
they are the minority, especially I think when it comes to thyroid. So, you think you go to medical school or PA school or nurse practitioner school, whatever, years, blood, sweat, tears, money, like you put in a lot of effort to get this training to become a medical professional. And if that were me, I what is the point of that? What is the point of all that hard work, of spending all that money, of spending all that time when treatment is, at least specific to thyroid, you a kiosk at Walgreens could do this for you. So a patient could walk in there, stick their lab print out, and oh, your TSH is 6.2. Okay, and it spits out your level of thyroxine. If a monkey at a drugstore kiosk could do your job, what was the point of going to medical school? Where is the critical thinking? Where is the like, okay, you have all these symptoms, these numbers are normal, but they're at the low end of normal. You might feel better if this was a little higher within the range. I don't want to put you out of the range, but let's, if the range is this wide and you're here, maybe you would feel a little better if you were here. And the level of thyroxine clearly isn't doing that. Let me give you a little bit of T3 medicine and see what happens. But you get my point. Like, why bother reading all those textbooks, doing all those dissections, doing all the labs, when if you're actually in practice, it's like you don't use any of that. It's like, here's the level, here's your med. What was the point?
Yeah,
I would be pissed off if I was a doctor. And that's sort of,
absolutely.
but I can't say that's what they're expected to do, because a lot of doctors don't do that. A lot of doctors do look at these things very differently. So I don't know what the difference is of maybe they're in a conventional medical system and they're literally not allowed to prescribe a certain thing. Like I get that, but what is the point of MD to me is still extremely impressive, respectable. Like if anyone's an MD, you've worked way harder at that than I ever have at anything. And so I get to put all that effort in only to never bother to use what you learned. Like
And that is the thing. It's like the patient goes, they get the blood work done, then they get the paper back with the colors, the red, green, and yellow. Like, oh, you're in the red here. We need to prescribe this. You're in and it's like, instead of just going down this list, why don't you look at the big picture and see if any of it's attached, and do we need to test further in this section? That kind of stuff. That critical thinking piece seems to be missing in a lot of cases, which is actually what set this whole journey off for me, because I read my lab work and knew enough to know that my antibodies shouldn't be through the roof. And when I went back to speak to the doctor, she actually looked at me and said, "Why are you here?" And I was like, "I clearly have a problem." She was, "Oh, when you get nodules, we'll just take out your thyroid. That's how we deal with it." And I was like, "Oh no, we're not doing this. We are
wow,
not doing this." Yeah. And there's people out there every day having that conversation with their provider.
they are, and it's I I don't know how we got here, but I want people to know, whether it's thyroid or something else, some other issue, shop around. You are allowed to find a new doctor. A doctor is like any other person you pay to provide you a service, like a plumber, like a carpenter. If you're not happy with the service they're providing, go elsewhere. Even if I understand, at least in the US, or like your insurance might be limiting you, or like if you're outside the US, whatever national healthcare system you have, you might not be as free to shop around, but to the extent that you can, look elsewhere. There are people out there who do this, in my opinion, the right way, and it may not be easy to find them. You might have to pay out of pocket, you may have to, but you're worth it. Now, if finances allowing, I know not everybody, it's simply not an option financially for them to do certain things, and my heart goes out to those people, but you owe it to yourself to at least look. Never just roll over and play dead. Like there are options, you just have to find them.
Yeah. I agree, and that's exactly what I had to do was start shopping around, and it's a kind of a painful process, but you gotta think of yourself as worth the effort, and stop taking your health outside of your hands and start being a major contributor to how you go about treatment for whatever's going on in your life.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, we have neared our hour of conversation, and I've enjoyed it thoroughly. So I want to thank you again for coming on and sharing with me today. Um, I know that you said that you host groups, so I want to give you an opportunity to talk about that a little bit, and then also like how people can find you. And I will definitely link to specifically that article in the notes as well.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. I the group that I run now, I mean, I do coaching for Adapt Your Life Academy. We do online courses about keto and carnivore and other health topics, and we have a private membership. But for anyone out there that knows Patreon, I have a Patreon, and I have a weekly support group call, and it is a keto without the crazy call. You know, we welcome you whatever flavor of low carb you are. If you're just low-ish carb, if you're keto, if you're carnivore. If you're not even doing it yet, you're just kind of curious and you have questions and you want to get rational, sane, down to earth answers, like everybody's welcome. It is a no food shaming zone, no food policing. Like we do not tolerate extremism. So that's on Patreon. We'll put links to all this. And I am on YouTube. I haven't put out a new video in a while, but I have a YouTube channel, and I'm like, I do have the Substack, and I'm in the process of creating a new website. My website is ketowithoutthecrazy.com, but I just got it. There's a contact page. So if anyone does want to get in touch with me, you can go to ketowithoutthecrazy.com to contact me. But it is sort of under development. It's mostly not filled out yet, but you can go there if you want to just message me.
Yeah, a little landing page for now, but expect more to come here in the future. Yeah, totally
Exactly.
understand that
Yes.
concept. And I'm really looking forward to this book coming out. I know you don't have a timeline, I guess. You don't want to put a timeline out there, but I know that it's going to help a lot of people. But your perspective to me is just very refreshing. You're in this middle ground, and I think that needs to be amplified more than these extremes. And so
Thank
I
you. Thank
appreciate
you.
that you are out there, even when it's frustrating, still banging the drum and telling people, it doesn't have to be this complicated.
Yeah, it's a little frustrating, but I think the worse it gets, the more extreme it gets, the more what I do is needed, the more, the more people need these voices of reason and simplicity. So, and I think the talk that you saw in Denver about thyroid is on YouTube. So we'll maybe link to that too.
Oh, yes. Thyroid Talk, Denver. See, this is me producing right here, right now. I wrote it down so that I remember to link to it. Yeah, I do believe it is on there. I think I've shared that with many people. So I know it really sparked for myself. It really sparked like, oh, okay, I need to change how I'm dealing with all of this. So it's an important conversation, and it kind of goes in waves. People will talk about thyroid and it'll be like top of mind for several months, and then it kind of hides again. So but all of this, it's all the same thing. Somebody has something going on in their life. It could be anything, a diagnosis of some sort, and put yourself in the middle of your treatment options. Don't just leave it up to everyone else, and seek all the information that you can. It's non-specific, and it goes across all things. So oh, Amy, I appreciate this so much. I believe you're going to COSI, right? So I'll see you there. Are you going to go?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Yes. So I will see you at COSI, and I won't be so shy about saying hi because I
Yeah,
get real
definitely,
shy at
no,
these.
definitely come say hi.
Yeah. So thank you again. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me today. And thank you everyone for hearing our keto biography. Bye.